Okay, everybody, I would like to call this meeting of the City of New Bern Municipal Service District Advisory Committee. This is our regular meeting to order and ask that we have the roll call, please.
David Barthol.
Here.
Sabrina Bangle.
Here.
John Harrelson.
Here.
Mike Lentz.
Mark here.
Von Lewis.
Here.
Mickey Miller. Here. George Oliver.
Here.
Dr. Jim Polo.
Here.
Johnny Robinson. Michael E. Rose Watson.
Here.
Karen Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Prill.
Here.
Alderman Nasser.
Here.
Foster Hughes.
Here.
Okay, thank you all so much. In your packet, you were sent, there is a copy of the minutes from our regular meeting on February the 18th and our work session that was held on the 9th. Whenever anybody's ready, I'll entertain a motion to accept each one individually if there are changes, or both of them together if there are any changes.
Move we accept. Give a second.
Okay, so I just want to clarify both of them,
Yes.
both sets. Okay, so I have a motion by John Harrelson and a second by Johnny Robinson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Kim, our financial report.
As of April 30th, 2025, the total assets is $2,295,055. Our deferred inflows, which consist of the prepaid taxes, is $2,901, with a total net position at this time of $2,292,154, including the liabilities and deferred inflows, resources, and net position. We're at $2,295,056. Is there any questions on the comparative balance sheet? Okay, the next page is the budget to actual. And at this time, our total revenues, about halfway down the page, is $437,012. That's the budget. And
Oh,
then,
I see.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So the first column is the budget, the second column is the actual, and the third column is the variance between the two. So that's, as of April 30th, you're under budget by $29,198. The total expenditures is $193,888, so you're just under budget there by $81,538. We have the total other financing uses of $42,000. Our change in net position is $201,124 from the prior period, and then the net position as of April 30th again is $2,292,154. Are there any questions on this report? The next page is the debt report, so that shows both of those loans. They're both paid off in fiscal year 2027-28. We have a total balance remaining as of June 30, 2025 will be $292,719.70 at the end of this fiscal year.
Any questions for Kim? If none, can I have a motion to accept the financial report? Do you have a question? I'm sorry.
I do. It's
Okay.
a question that I've raised before, but to clarify, if the MSD is really just a taxing authority, it's a region, why do they collect rent or parking spaces? Why is rental income coming back into the MSD?
Because it's for a property that we paid for, but with MSD
But
dollars.
MSD doesn't own property. It's a
That's correct,
taxing
but
authority.
it was paid for with MSD funds. So the property was purchased.
Is it an investment company then? Are we an investment company that buys land and raises money?
No, we're not. The MSD is not look at it as a fund. And so at some point, the governing board determined that the revenues that were generated off of, whether it was rental for a lease on a parking space or for the funds collected for the pay to park at the lot side of City Hall or the farmer's market rent, the governing board decided that they wanted those funds to go back into that MSD account. That was the whole goal of that. So at some point along the line, that's how that was determined.
Okay, so it actually went before the Board of Aldermen?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It wasn't something that we just devised ourselves, but it was property, same thing like the farmer's market. They pay $500 a month rent to MSD. And so therefore, we use those funds to maintain the farmer's market. We put in new doors and other things that we needed, upgrades that were needed in the city. So, and that was voted on. The alderman asked the farmer's market to pay $500 a month and do that. Those funds would come back in to MSD. Therefore, we would take care of any maintenance items or whatever was needed to upgrade that, because it is an asset to the downtown properties.
Well, I understand that thoughts. I just reviewing the statute that created the MSD for the state, and then our own formative documents for the city. I don't see any of that verbiage or that concept in there, but if it's been voted on by the alderman at some point, and that's a new statute adjustment, that I'm sure it's reflected somewhere in writing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Those are good questions. Anytime that you have for Scott Davis, he could probably point to the exact verbiage or help you with that. And feel free to contact him if you have on any of those questions. Okay. With that being said, I need a motion to approve the city of the MSD budget financials. Okay.
So moved.
Johnny Rob, and a second
Second.
from Vaughn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Foster, tell us about the IEDC Downtown Survey and Focus Group Project.
Okay, got a few updates. One is I just want to let you know that on May 13th, the governing board adopted the FY 2026 budget. The general fund budget will be $52,955,000. Total citywide budget is $166,311,000. What we did include in the MSD budget for this year already were some maintenance-related items, and that included adding some additional funds for staff to actually patrol the downtown streets for additional trash, to do some additional maintenance down there. If you've been down there recently, you've seen a lot of weeds growing up in the sidewalks, and also we're going to have a dedicated person to take care of that moving forward. Also, we've added approximately $10,000 to start repainting light poles downtown. So that'll start at some point this summer, and once those funds have been expended, we'll just look at reallocating that in future budgets. And also the historic downtown New Bern banners that you've seen, a lot of those have just been torn up and ragged, so we've included funds in there to replace those within the MSD. Also want to give you an update on the IEDC Downtown Survey and Focus Group project. So you should have all received an email from myself or the chamber or Swiss Mayor or some other ways to let you know a little bit about this. We received a grant from the Eastern Carolina Council of Governments to work with the IEDC again. We did this last summer with another project, and the focus is on the downtown, but since we've seen a lot of traction with where the old Penix is, we've decided to kind of go up that area as well to include that in the footprint of this conversation. So the goal is to get some feedback through May 30th on the surveys, and I think so far, we sent this information out yesterday, and so far we've had several responses. We're going to set up some focus group meetings similar to what we did last year. The meetings will be about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes each. They're going to be on June 2nd and 3rd, and staff's in the process of reaching out to not only residents, but business owners, nonprofits, certain committees like the MSD Advisory Committee, Swiss Mayor, the Chamber, and things like that to invite them to get their input for that. So be on the lookout for that information. Any questions on that? So we'll go ahead and move on to...
Foster, I just to advise the MSD board, I didn't hear you say this, but the tax rate did stay the same.
The tax rate
Which
did...
is 13 cents?
It's 11.22. And so the reason we did not adjust that is because the conversations we've had with this group, and the goal this year is to see several projects being started. So If that does not happen, then obviously, yes, we can address that as we come into the next year. But I anticipate this advisory committee making several recommendations. So we're going to go ahead and go into some projects. Some of these were actually a combination of city staff proposed and things we've received. So the first one we're going to talk about, and I've got a little packet for you, are kiosks. So we talked about kiosks for a while. We applied for a grant and did not receive one. Johnny Robinson had turned some information in on this. Let's see, Jim Polo had made some recommendations on this as well. It's hard to find companies that will do this. The one that Johnny Robinson found, all they focus on are the top 10 largest cities in the country. So that's a free kiosk. They're not interested in working with us. But what we are recommending are 2 kiosks, one to be placed at the entrance of Bear Plaza, and the other one right at the entrance of the parking lot on Craven Street Park. So same general locations, just on opposite sides of that area. The cost per kiosk is about $31,000 each. The dimensions, and you can see what these look like, they're 52 by 52 by 96. And what we're recommending is actual digital display on one side, which would have a 30 by 60 display. And then the 3 other sides is where you put basically a backlit poster board on there. So we could have a map that says you are here. You could have information on upcoming special events. You could have information on any of the history walks we have. And those things are interchangeable. With the digital display, it's pretty interesting. It's not touch screen. Well, it's not touch screen responsive, but it can provide a variety of videos. It can show ads of businesses if need be. It can show a variety of information, and it looks really attractive. And after this meeting, I'll send you a link of what they sent us from another city, just to kind of see what it will do. But I think it will definitely add a lot to the downtown. If we get a recommendation, we'll bring this to the board at the next meeting in June. Estimated delivery time after order is about 60 days, and it would cost about $62,000, tax not included for this. And love to hear any discussion anyone would like to have on this.
Is there a way that advertising could be sold to help raise money to maintain these and maybe pay the cost for electricity?
Advertising.
Self-sustaining once they're purchased.
Yeah.
Is there any thought to maybe putting some other kiosks out, like outside of the Baptist church, where that kind of Pollock Street, so when people coming into town from Pollock Street would then have information there, so they would kind of see
That's the potential.
outside City Hall.
Yep, that's potential.
Union Point is another one where a lot of visitors come and they're looking for what's up in town and all.
The scariest thing about Union Point Park, and a lot of the controls are at the bottom of this, because I had a conversation with the company on that, with Union Point Park, and it doesn't flood a lot, but when it does, it can flood, is having to go in there, knowing when it's going to be a high tide, and basically disconnect this thing and move it. So that may not be the best location unless we were to greatly build up an area.
So Foster, can they be solar powered?
They're not solar powered.
No,
They have to have their own power.
I want everybody to have open mind. Definitely, this is something we've been talking about a long time, and this will be an asset. But I would like, as we go through all these projects, because there's so many, I think we need to have an open mind about that. We combine these and potentially either do a loan installment so that we could do many projects and then pay the funds like we did with the streets. We were able to do more of the streets by doing that process. And so I don't know if we individually, we may say, yes, this sounds good, but then maybe come together for a full budget idea of many projects that we could send, and we can send them in one fell swoop rather than, nitpick. Okay, I feel like the aldermen every week, every meeting will get one, and they're only meeting once a month now through, is it August or September? Until September?
Through August.
Through August. So they're only one meeting a month. So again, it would be better. Just a thought while we're going through all these projects is to look at all of them, yay or nay them, maybe, and then put them into the pile and ask for approval all at once rather than shooting one at a time over to them. And doing loan proceeds to me would be an easier way to do it.
If I can have one other comment on these boards, if we could make an effort, as town is littered with sandwich boards, if we could maybe have advertising opportunities for businesses on these kiosks, so that they wouldn't have to have as many sandwich boards around town. We could serve both purposes, advertising for businesses and cleaning up the town, which I think has been a discussion point on several different groups.
I hear what you're saying, but I will tell you that we'd be hard pressed to get the downtown businesses to agree with that, because there's going to be a cost to the advertising versus putting your sign out, you know, your sandwich sign. And I think we're going to have to at least get some input from them. I know that it does, we need to have, I think, a standard. I know Swiss Bear tried that a few years ago. If we had a standard to say, this is the material you use, this is where it's placed. The biggest pet peeve I have is nobody puts it in the right place. You know, you walk down the street and it's in the middle of the sidewalk versus out to the curb. But my only concern would be, what is the cost? I mean, in order to say your business is somewhere, do you have to pay $200, $300, $500? I have no idea what the cost would be on this. But how would they feel doing that versus the sign they've always had, putting it out on the sidewalk to let somebody know they're open for business?
Yeah, but maybe one solution would be that if your business is located within the MSD, then it's a reduced rate, a significantly reduced rate. Whereas if it's outside, that you still have the opportunity.
And it could be, I just think we need to think, I like that idea. I think it's benefit to the people that do have businesses in the current footprint. But I think it's something we need to be aware of as we go forward. And I guess we won't really even know the question until we realize how much we would charge for advertising. You know, in most cases, a lot of those digital boards are expensive, and they've been for, you know, other opportunities. I'm not sure how much of this do we want to defray. Are we trying to raise $31,000 in advertising per machine? I don't know. Or are we trying to raise 15 or 10? What is the number? So until we know the answers to those
I have
questions.
a question, Foster. So these two styles that you have here, are they the only two, or are these just?
That is the main style of what you see, the square. They come in a variety of colors, so it's basically an unlimited color finish on that. But
Okay,
yes,
so
that's what you see.
We would just be recommending the concept, and then the detail
That's
of look
correct.
would be
Definitely.
worked out.
That's correct.
That's true. And this is the cost for this style.
That's correct, yes. When you're adding, and we don't really, in all reality, we looked at just one of the live screen monitors. They're about 20 grand each for this, so it's hard to justify doing 4 around this or even 2. I like the thought of just having some interactive things where you can just pull and update any maps that need to be done with that. And it's a good starting point just to see how it works. If it's popular, you can add more.
Is the idea that if advertising sold, it would come back to the MSD?
It would.
Okay.
It would.
Is there I guess that's the question, what would you put on it if not advertising? Would you just have enough information about the city?
I believe so,
Okay.
with events and activities, videos of things that are going on in the downtown. Oh, yeah. That would
Even
be
with
unlimited.
I think it would be a tourist
Mhm.
benefit in most
Yeah.
cases. So, you know, the map of New Bern, you are here with the streets illuminated, I think showing restrooms, other things. Then I could see a calendar of events, maybe that, you know, would every week to show you what that the TVA already is doing and has. I could see that being on one side of the screen. But again, that would be something the city would have to look at. Anybody have any other questions about this proposal?
It's a very nitpicky question, but does the city pay taxes?
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh, yes.
You have
we
to pay sales tax?
We do. We get reimbursed for that, but we do have to pay
Okay.
taxes. Yeah.
I have one. Sure. I'm starting to notice businesses outside of the MSD are mimeographing off information on their businesses, and they're taping them to lampposts. You know, they're taping them all over the place. So-
If you see it, let us know.
Okay.
That's a constant thing, so yeah, let us know.
Okay,
We'll-
so the person that you're going to be hiring to like take care of, will they be in charge of doing that as
They will
well?
be looking for that type of thing,
Okay.
yes.
So just, I mean, show of hands, or, you know, are we good with pushing this project forward then? Putting it in the pile. Let's put it in the, we want it to go pile, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, I'm gonna let George talk about the next one, which is going to be the Broad Street parking for the new fishing pier.
Okay, and in your handout, this is the most recent concept that we're kind of looking at. And so once constructed, it'll be in some similar fashion to this. This doesn't include every detail. Obviously, we've got to take into account traffic movement, ADA requirements for access and parking. And we have a consultant currently preparing a proposal to do the engineering and construction administration for this, and take into account that we've got to abide by any environmental impacts that we have. We're going to try to limit that because some of this area was existing compacted concrete, so we're hoping to avoid any major impacts by the permitting. And we would hope to be able to get this done in about a 12-month window. It just depends on what the regulators come back with, but we think we can avoid most of the high impact areas that would slow down the project, at least in permitting phase.
So the proposal here, how many parking spaces? Does this include bathrooms? What is this?
This does not include restrooms, this is just the parking itself. George, how many parking anticipated on
I
based
think
on
we've
what you
ended up
currently
11 or
see?
12 in there now, and depending on, I think we're going to need one at least ADA van accessible site, so that'll take up one of those spaces, and it'll be connected to a sidewalk that gets you to the pier.
So 10 plus an ADA space, a total of 11.
Is the idea to add bathrooms eventually?
Yes, through a set of parking funding, yes.
So it'd be like a grant or something like that?
We're working on some things with Alderman Astor here.
Bobby can find things that nobody else can find.
Had a hard time finding bathroom money, though.
Don't have a drain, huh?
Yeah.
Would it make sense to have a drop-off closer to the water, making that a little wider at the end? So
The difficulty with getting near the water, we've got several different environmental rules that we have to abide by. You've got Neuse River buffer rules that have a 50-foot, two separate zones in that 50 feet. There's also a 75-foot CAMA IEDC zone. So we're restricted by current regulation on how close we get to the water.
George, if you eliminated the center island there, would you be able to get more parks and angle them instead of paralleling them?
Not unless an adjoining property owner is willing to give up some property.
Wow. Have you talked to the county about that?
No, we're going to try to maximize parking. It's just really when you have two-way car movement, you kind of get restricted, and with the access off the traffic circle, we really need to have two-way movement in there to make it accommodate anybody coming in and out.
George, is that island, is the new addition of the median, is that going to limit truck mobility in that circle? It's already limited by its size.
It will. Mainly turning radiuses on larger trucks. But we are working actually with the NCDOT on the project on the highway to change the truck routes and their mapping to try to eliminate some, at least the through traffic coming through downtown when trucks get a little bit misguided in how they maneuver in their destinations to eliminate it. But still, any truck that comes downtown that has a delivery destination downtown, even if it's not a truck route, has access to come in and pick.
How does everybody feel about this project? Feel like it's something we need to do?
Is this funded solely by MSD, or is the city also kicking in a?
This 300,000 would come from MSD.
Just to ask, are there any other grants that can make a match on something like that? I mean,
We've not been able to find any
Okay.
additional grants for that.
I know you've done with grants like that,
Right.
just not that part. Okay.
So is the consensus that we move this project forward, or anybody feel? No strongly? Okay. All right, Foster?
Okay, George, we're going to revisit the downtown crosswalks. I was not able to attend the last part of the meeting we had, and I know that in the minutes it talked about one crosswalk, but I do think it's very important that we talk about multiple crosswalks. This will be done over a phased period of time, so I'm going to let George talk through this.
All right, and on your handout, there's several areas we were looking at in this $750,000 approximate estimate for it. But we would also try to include the two mid-blocks, one on Craven and one on Middle similar to what we have on Pollock. So these would be traditional brick mortared in crossings, very similar to what you have downtown already. So we're going to simulate that type of item. The time frame, like Foster mentioned, it would be a multi-year, hopefully to, if we could compress it into that. But we have a shorter work window downtown where we like to do larger infrastructure from January 2nd to approximately right now before Memorial Day. That's our window to do major road closures that would close an intersection for 2 weeks or something similar. So we're kind of limited to how much we can do over a continuous year. So we may have to phase this over a multi-year project. But we would recommend the traditional brick with a concrete band. So on a four-way intersection, you would end up with all four legs done. On Hancock, if we did those, it would just be a single leg going across out of the railroad right of way, so you don't interfere with that difficulty. But we think this would be a good thing in match what's downtown. We'd have some consistency in the crosswalks, and I think it's a good project for beautification in this area.
Okay, so the one that we had agreed on originally to start and do, was that not in the budget?
That's included in this.
No, but I'm saying, was that in the budget?
It was not included in the budget.
It was not included.
Because I knew we were going to revisit this, because the preference is to encumber this.
So can you again go block by block and tell us exactly which blocks, this total of what you're asking, approximately $45,000?
Right. So that would include South Front and Middle. It would also include Middle and Pollock.
Okay.
We would also have similar on Craven, South Front, Pollock. South Front Street at the bridge.
No, South Front and Craven, you said, not South Front. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, South Front and Craven. And then as you went up East Front Street, so the intersection of South Front and East Front, Pollock and East Front. And then also to include in that, rather than the traffic circle, which would be this $50,000 for the traffic circle, we would allot to the two mid-block crossings.
At Hancock.
One at Craven, one at Middle. So coming out of basically the Morgan's parking lot, that area, and then one coming out of Bear Plaza on Middle.
But I am confused though, we're not going to do the roundabout on East Front. I don't think we should, because that thing gets torn up so
Well,
much that.
we've got some different considerations for that one and its elevation, and with the idea that there potentially is going to be construction down there with the county on their site that will just add to heavy deliveries in there. We're not at a point that I would suggest moving forward on that area, but that dollar amount would then be split between the two mid-blocks, so we're about at the same cost. The one good thing is if we could do multiple intersections in 1 year, I think there's some economy of scale and savings with the contractor being on site. It'll just be more impactful to traffic downtown as we try to do multiple intersections in a 1 year, that 4.5 month window we have.
So it's basically 8 intersections that you're requesting, but the amount of money is still the same, $745?
Well,
or-
if we took if we took the
You
traffic
took 50
supply,
out of that.
that 50 would go to those two mid-blocks.
I see that you didn't figure into the seven.
Correct. So the mid-blocks, yeah, that would just replace the traffic circle with
Okay.
mid-blocks.
Okay, so it's just,
Yeah.
The estimate does include the economy of scale, doing it all at one time, or it will be more if you did not do it that way?
We're hoping that we can fit it in. Until you bid it, you don't really know the true number.
Right.
So, but these were numbers that were given to us by a contractor that has put in brick crosswalks currently in Greenwood with their downtown revitalization.
If you split it into two, any idea of what the increase in cost would be, two projects?
I don't know. That time of year is difficult with weather. We would hope we could get multiple intersections done. It may be a thing of multiple intersections in mid-blocks. We're not tying up all of downtown at one time. Obviously, we would limit construction to one intersection at a time or one block at a time. We don't want to be too impactful. And even the four ways, I imagine we do 2 legs. So we would close, say, Pollock at Craven and do those 2 legs and then swap over and then come down Craven and leave Pollock open. We try to let some traffic flow go through. We just have to see how the means and methods happen with the contract.
other questions for for George. And this is something we've been talking about for a while. And I look at all of this as, you know, like when we did the streetscape, we needed to do it. We had to, and it took us 20 years to get all the streetscapes done. So this would be great to be able to get these crosswalks and good standing. Okay, so can we move this one? Should we put this one back on? Okay, Foster, you got that direction. That one's a go.
I have a related question. It's not, I know that we've started, the city has started putting up walk, don't walk at various intersections. Is there a plan to move forward with more of those walk, don't walk?
We are actually looking at that in our general fund budget for public works. The one that we've currently looked at that looks to be the most used and the most needed would be at Craven. So the foot traffic crossing to the courthouse, there's a lot of traffic, foot traffic down there. And we've also had conversations about upgrading the actual signage at the foot of the bridge at East Front and South Front. If you notice, the new light at Middle has some additional features to it that are not the same as what is there for the bridge. So it's got a second countdown on it. It's got a little bit of a different audible system to it that's more in compliance with the new rules. So, you know, we're internally having discussions about those two. We've actually got a signal phasing program going on right now with a consultant for the downtown broad corridor to try to get better timing between those signals to move the traffic in and out of downtown. And so once we get that completed, we're going to look at doing some other signal upgrades.
Okay, Foster, do you want to go to the additional
Yes.
proposed by advisory board members?
Yeah, so what I'm going to go over, I'm just going to go over some of these proposals. I'm not going to talk about numbers because Michael Lee and I met. She's got some information in here as well. She's going to talk through some of those things. So when we talk about bench additions, currently you'll see the Victor Stanley bench that we currently have, and that has Ipe wood in it, which is extremely hard. It's extremely durable, but the cost for this type of bench, the Victor Stanley, is extremely expensive. A 6-foot bench is $2,700. A 4-foot bench is $2,500. We have started using the replica style bench that doesn't use Ipe, but you can actually have oak or recycled plastic. The cost is substantially less on that. So I wanted to let you know that. The armrest, there's been discussions about adding armrests in the center of some of the wider benches. That's about $300 a piece for that.
You want to talk about the fact that we might not need armrests, but hasn't the city changed their camping policy?
We did. We added an ordinance that prevents camping overnight on streets, sidewalks, public property, basically. So who does this affect? Well, if someone was going to lay on the bench and try to sleep all night, well, if the police sees them or it's reported, they're going to move them along. That does not prevent anyone from going to a park during the day and taking a nap on a bench or on a bench downtown. So that's the big difference with that. So if this group is interested in seeing basically the armrest divider, you know, yes, it definitely will prevent anyone from laying out on the bench, on any of the city benches. We have quite a few benches downtown. The cost would be considerable. George, did you have a number of the total benches? We're happy to look at installing some, if that's of interest to the group.
Tell me about the Ipe that you have. Are you talking about replacing those, or these
No,
benches would be
no,
in addition to?
That's right.
Okay.
Additional benches that, and I would actually recommend the replica bench just based on the cost. So the next item of trash cans, we've talked about this as well. So a new trash can, the same style that we currently carry, is $845 a piece. So also we do refurbished. We refurbish some of the trash cans. So Public Works will take them out of service from time to time. To refurbish, that includes sandblasting and repowder coating. That's about $225 a piece when we do that. So George and them have that on a cycle that they do several each year. Then we had flower baskets that could hang on the light poles. And so when we price, those are going to be between $300 and $350. That does not include the cost of plantings in that.
Is there a water system that you would install that would water these?
No, that would be manual watering on that. So I'm going to leave it right there with that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michael Lee, let her talk about.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Foster. Okay, so, yeah, I walk the streets like all day. So I think flower planters along the intersections would be a real good idea versus every single lamppost. So I went around and I looked at the traditional lights that we have. We have a lot of security lights as well, so this particular planter will not work on the security lights. But the traditional lampposts, we have about 30 that would be a good location for all of them. So it would be, okay, just looking at just my little map here. So if we start at Union Point Park, South Front Street and East Front Street, there's 3 poles there that would look great with flowers, and then South Front Street to Craven Street, 4 there, and then 4 at South Front Street and Middle, and then 2 over by the Farmers Market, and 1 around the corner sort of by Port Charlie's, so 2 over in that area on those, and they're not exactly on the corners, but they're close to the corners. And then on Pollock Street, if we do Middle Street to Pollock, over where the church is, and it's also leading towards the theater, so those 4 corners, and then Pollock Street and Craven, those 4 corners, and on Pollock Street and East Front Street, which is on the other side of the B&Bs, I don't think anything needs to happen there. There's so much beauty going on over there, and there's really, those are all security poles. There aren't any traditional lampposts that are there. And then on Broad Street, the circle, nothing there. There's a lot of stuff going on down there. And then on Broad and Craven, by the Chelsea, and that whole corner, we could put 4 on that corner.
Is that, you said Craven, did you mean middle?
Craven and Broad.
Yeah, you had
That's not
said
what
Chelsea,
Chelsea-
that's not the Chelsea. So
Oh,
that's okay.
the Chelsea is, oh, no,
Middle.
you're right, oh, yeah, okay, right, okay. Yeah, I'm getting there, okay. Yeah, so on Broad and Craven, 4 there, and then Middle and Broad, which is where the Chelsea is, 4 there. And then I'm also wondering if we should consider 1 more over by the Firemen's Museum. Just because it's sort of off, kind of down, and it'd be nice to have flowers on that one. So counting all of those up, that makes 30 flower pots for those corners.
Michael Lee, what about, I like the idea of the flowers themselves, but what about visibility for vehicles looking left or right?
Well, it
How would
would
that
be,
impact?
Yeah, how low do
that
they
is
hang?
not gonna be a problem, and in the packet, and I made a copy here, so this is what it looks like. Here's what the planter looks like, so it wraps around the pole.
How high up would they be?
I kind of see them high.
They would be high, they would be less than, in most instances with this, you can't fly the banners when you're doing this. So it would be like in the summertime, spring, summer, when nothing else is going on. Because you can't have, if you have it above it, the light is too close to the cross arms, so that doesn't really work out very well.
Right, and we can plant, they don't have to be just flowers. We can do ivies and, certain times of the year when we don't have flowers, there's all kinds of things we can plant in them, as the year goes along. So, and the city has a truck, a watering truck, so that seemed to make it a little easier to kind of consider this.
Are you proposing having these year-round?
Well, it would be kind of nice. I think there are
Well,
things
but
we can do
he's
year-round.
just saying, though, it's going to interfere with the banners, then what do we, because we just purchased banners, and then, they sell banners for like Mum Fest and other things.
So can the planters go above the little pole where you hang the banners? Can we put the flower, can we put
I
them
don't
up?
know that there's enough space, but we could certainly look at that.
Okay.
And of
Just
course,
want to be clear on that.
and of course, when it gets this, I always recommend, while I have no problem with the flower panel planters, I always recommend starting small and going from there, because this is a labor-intensive thing, and so we definitely have to weigh in the amount of time it's going to take to water, the cost of plants, to go in there as well. And in reality as well, when we've got events and activities going on there, we could not do this 12 months out of the year. It would have to be at certain times of the year for this.
Okay,
So do those remain there? Do the baskets remain there?
They would remain, yes.
They're not taken
But you would
down?
take the flowers out then? You'd have to
Yes.
take the
They would
flowers out,
be
put the,
removed, yes.
but the baskets stay there, then you can put the banners on?
That's correct. A great example is the image she showed you with the flowers. Traditionally, when you see flowers in a street pole setting, they really mushroom it and really take up a lot of space. So.
It's beautiful.
I think they would make an incredible splash. It's like, when I see them in little towns and you see those flowers as you're walking down sidewalks there, they're just classy.
If we could
It's-
have a partnership with either the garden club or the Women's Club to at least take on one intersection, let's say, and donate the plants, every
Yes.
season or something. Again, that gives community participation. I know when they have ownership in something, it makes people.
Can
I
we
was
reach-
also telling Foster, Ken Garner, who is a master gardener, and maybe some of you know who he is, he sets up at the farmer's market every week. Ken is in the business of creating species. That's what he does, and he created a plant, it's a sweet potato plant that's his own. He's got a patent on it, the whole thing. It was invented right here in New Bern. So, and one is purple and one is green. They're absolutely magnificent. I had them on my deck for, every summer. They're magnificent. So, and we can probably get Ken to donate a few. And it would be nice to say that it's another New Bern first, that we have this species that is here as well. So I'll bring samples next meeting.
Possibility to reach out to the supplier of these and tell them we are contemplating getting a bunch for downtown, but we would like one that we could receive, and that way we can make sure that if we're concerned about the banners, that I look at that picture, it looks lovely, but I can't look at that and figure out, if you have a banner rod above it, you can hang a banner when there aren't flowers.
We could certainly get one and test one and see what it looks like.
Well, that would be good,
Okay.
just to have it all figured. Then we would know the exact cost, because I think you need to come back with us, we're gonna we are gonna do 30, or we're gonna do one intersection. Could be something that is sponsored by the garden club, or women's club, or any other organization, just to give us more idea of funding.
Well, we could begin with south and east front streets. We could just do, the corridor coming into town. So, and then we can decide if we want to do Middle Street, Craven Street. And actually, the one over by the farmer's market and then around the corner for Port Charlie's, to put two over there, I think that would be just, nothing ever happens over there for them. I think they would be very, very appreciative, if we put one over there for them as well. So maybe start.
So do we want to start with the direction that Foster will get the sample, come in, look at it, see exactly, I don't know, do they come in different sizes? Can you get one that may not be as deep, that may be narrower, that would fit better on top? So that
Depends
you
on the
could-
manufacturer. We've got to do some
Okay,
research on it.
Okay.
On what will fit our appropriate pole.
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with that direction to Foster at this point? We're not necessarily spending any money, but we're going ahead and finding out exactly what we need so we can
Okay.
is everybody okay with that?
Okay.
Are we good? We good? Okay. Were you gonna talk about benches too, or just the flower benches?
Yeah, I think we need more benches. There seems to be just a lack of seating as we have a lot more pedestrian traffic all over the streets. So anyway, 12 to 16 more seating solutions of some kind, whether they're the benches that Foster has recommended, or Karen had also gone to Main Street, and there's all kinds of different types of seatings, city seating choices that we could maybe look at. If
Do
we,
you have a map of where you would propose to put these?
I have got a list of where I walked the whole area and where I think, okay, so I'll just run through it. East Front Street, it would be nice to have a bench over by Manette Chapman Duffy sign, you know, she's got a little garden thing, so it'd be nice to have a bench there. And then along the Riverwalk, between the convention center and the Doubletree, 3 to 6 more benches over there, because there's just one. Maybe there's 2, and they need to be cleaned or something, or some of that wood needs to be replaced. They're kind of slivering a little bit, so they have to be looked at there. So maintenance on those. Okay, Sky Sail. I've had a lot of residents in Sky Sail who would love to see up to 7 benches along the Riverwalk around Sky Sail. And they've sort of mapped out where those locations would be, and then you can look at the sunset, and you can look at the train, and you can just, you know, enjoy the beauty of the river. And then at the farmer's market, in front of the farmer's market, there's a bench on one side, but there's an area where you could put a bench on the other side. So there's already a cut in there, so I say we add a bench there. And then on Pollock Street, sort of across the street from the Civic Theater, the Baptist Church has got some cuts. There's a bench there, and there's also another cut, and there's no bench. So I say we put a bench there as well. So that's kind of my recommendation. So 12 to 16 more benches.
And I would say, as a resident representative, that the armrests to prevent daytime sleeping and nighttime sleeping, I understand it's out of the ordinance now, but you know what happens. It discourages the kind of the sleeping in the area, and there are a lot of residents that would like that to happen. So I think that the funding to put armrests up is a good thing.
And I'm going to recommend the 4-foot bench versus the 6-foot. Usually people, when they're walking around, it's a couple, you know, and if it's a family, you know, parents are going to sit, kids are going to be running around. So I would say the 4-foot bench. I never see 5 people sitting on a bench.
And with 4 foot, you don't need armrests.
You
Well,
don't. You don't.
Well, one reason I might
These
disagree,
aren't-
I want to think about it, is that if you put the armrest, I can see that you would have 2 families or couples, because there's that armrest separation. So it's almost like you're getting 2 for 1 if you go 6 foot with the armrest.
Maybe, but what I've observed is if someone's already sitting at that bench, no one's going to invade their space. They're gonna move to another, that's what I've kind of noticed.
What size do we have now?
We've basically got 6-foot benches.
And I would say existing benches downtown, that's what we refer to those. Those are the ones we should put the armrests. Right, those that are 6 foot.
And I also would recommend the recycled plastic, because splintering, even the Ipe will splinter over time, and you're gonna make up that $100 or $300 difference in a decade or so because of not having to maintenance and replace.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we want benches. We want armrests in existing benches. Is that something you can put together and come back to us with a specific?
I wouldn't do that. I would just say, if you're recommending armrest in the downtown area, that's all we need to hear. And
Is everybody, let's take it in 2 pieces. Armrest good, we want to add the armrest
To the
existing benches. Is everybody good with
Yeah.
that? Okay, Foster, you have that direction.
And then if we're,
And then, if you're talking about benches, just give us a number.
Well, I
100
I
benches.
wanna,
benches.
my question, more than half of the benches are right there at Skysail, which is like a fraction of the downtown waterfront, et cetera, et cetera. Are those on city property, or are those benefiting the citizens, or are those benefiting the residents of Skysail?
I think it will benefit everyone because the Riverwalk is just gorgeous over there. That's where you see the sunset.
They are city property. It is city property.
And I mean, I've never been that far down Riverwalk,
You
but
should walk down there.
I should, I agree.
Yeah.
Do other people walk down there?
They do.
Besides the residents, so it is a popular walking space?
And jog and walkers,
Okay, that's all I need to know.
So the city property line, or the Skysail property line, roughly runs from corner to corner. Those corners that go out towards the water. So if you look at the lawn at Skysail, probably, I think it's a third of that from the water is city property.
so what is the number? What's the magic number? Want to start with
16
12?
up to, how about we say up to 16, can we do that? And then you can choose how many less you want, up to 16.
But we want the 4-foot benches.
The 4 foot, yes.
Yes, so we don't have to buy the extra middle
Officer,
piece.
can we include a couple of the dog or the animal cleanup stations as along those public areas as well?
So Parks and Recreation provides that, so yeah, that would be an MSD
Okay.
expense, so, yeah, we can look at that.
Right.
Okay, okay, so you have direction on that. Okay.
And then one more area, trash cans,
Okay.
and then I'll be done.
Okay.
Okay.
Promise?
Okay, so I'm going to recommend 8 or 9, probably 9, up to 9 more trash cans. So on Pollock Street, where the B&Bs are, we now have Gemelli's, and we have Michael's Pub, and we have the Cub House, and then there's the tax office. It'd be nice to have up to 3 trash cans on, like one at the Cub House. I think there should be one there, and maybe one over at the tax office, and then another one somewhere between Gemelli's and Michael's Pub.
I was gonna say,
So
tax
3
office
cans.
is probably gonna go away sooner rather than later.
Okay, 2.
Yeah.
I think 2 would be good.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot more traffic with those 2 restaurants.
Are there any on the corner of Pollock and the East Front?
Yeah, that's where I usually, the corners usually tend to,
There is one over by, what is it, the dress store over there, so on Craven and Pollock, there's
okay,
one
by,
there.
Peacock's Plume.
Peacock's Plume, yeah, there's one over there, but there's not one in front of City Hall, and then there's another one on the other side, so on the north side as well, of Craven Street, there's one there. But there's nothing once you get to once you go down Pollock, there's nothing until you get to the galley store. There's no trash can.
So the one thing we look at when you're on that block of Pollock Street is there enough of a strip in the right of way where you can put that and it's not going to interfere with a car parking in a parking space? Because basically that sidewalk, the back of the sidewalk is all we have in terms of right of way. We can't put it in someone's front yard for that. So that's what we have to look at.
Okay.
Can we realistically put anything in those areas?
This may be my opinion only, but, well, it is my opinion, and no one may share it with me. I feel like the trash cans belong at intersections, and it doesn't have to be totally vehicular. So, for example, it totally belongs at Bear Plaza and Middle, for
Yes.
example, or James Reed and Pollock. But I'm not sure about putting them mid-block, especially where it's largely, the Airbnb pedestrian kind of thing. I wouldn't want it in front of my house, frankly.
There was one in front of,
But the Cub House, I agree.
the Cow Cafe.
Okay, one
They
at the Cub
removed it.
House.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, so they did remove it from Cow Cafe because again, it constantly was overflowing and it looked so bad, they didn't want it. And the people that lived at Crest Building, there was trash all over the place all the time. So
Right.
again, they had it removed. So, because we thought, oh, it's so busy there, people, it might help, but it did not, it made it worse.
There is no trash can at the corner of East Front Street and Pollock. So right there where you cross the street, there's no trash, so we should put one there.
I would
Okay.
say yes.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay, all right. I think it would be good to have a couple just there on Pollock Street. Okay, so talking about cans in the middle of streets, okay, so that brings me to Middle Street. Well, I have other things, but we'll just talk about Middle Street. So we have 5 trash cans on the 200 block of Middle Street right now, on the east side. So there's one at Pepsi, there's 2 at Bear Plaza, there's one at the Bruin, and there's one at the Captain Ratty's Corner. So that's 5 cans we have there right now. So, and we have some store owners who are requesting more, that would like to have another can. Pinkies would like to have another can. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are about adding 6 cans onto Middle Street. On the other-
Additional?
No, number 6, number
Six
6.
in addition.
So on the west side of Middle, we have 3 cans. There's one by Baker's, and then up at the corner,
First Baptist.
First Baptist has one, Baker's, and then East Front Street, South Front Street, and Middle. Yeah, there's one over there on that corner as well.
So-
Actually, that one's across the street, I don't think it's.
So my first comment is going to be on any of the trash cans we put in. We'll have Public Works, they'll look to see exactly how much trash is pulled out of the existing cans now to see if, in reality, if there's justification for it. When we're looking at another can like in front of Pinky's, my big question is going to be, is it because you see so many people coming down the street and dropping their stuff, or are you wanting, what trash
It's
is
just
in
that
there?
between my place, MJ's, Poorhouse, and the Bruin, that generates a lot of foot traffic. And yes, there's, we constantly have, I'm constantly sweeping up out front, bringing the stuff inside and up in my, which I'm okay to do, but it would be much more convenient for our, people strolling down the street that just have a place to just toss their coffee cup or whatever it is that they have in their hand. And we generate a lot of foot traffic just between those 4 places.
So we can definitely, Public Works will definitely study that. I would just say, come up with a number of cans, and then we will go from there on that.
It seems to me too, part of this, you want to be careful how many cans you put out there, because this gets back to the salmon food conversation.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Passage.
6 would be a lot, and I didn't realize there was already 5, but there is a lot of, so I'm not sure what the solution is.
I think the intersections, like John was talking about, not just vehicular, but pedestrian, because there are some significant intersections.
Well, there's actually a pedestrian crosswalk at Bear Plaza, and I think having one on the west side of that crosswalk would make, that's logical to me, just randomly in the middle of the block is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the issues we have with our sidewalks, the sidewalks are not extremely wide. And so if you've got a restaurant that's got the downtown dining or sidewalk dining, then you've got one of the Silcovas, then you've got signage that's out there. It really creates a lot of obstacles there. So adding another trash can, we have to look at that, see if realistically, do we still have accessible flow of pedestrian traffic, or are we going to have to work out something else? So they're more than just saying, yeah, I want to add some trash cans. There are a lot of things we'll look at.
And the trash doesn't make it pleasant for outdoor dining either.
No, it doesn't, so it wouldn't, so not have it close to MJ's, I don't think that would be good. But the Bruin, I mean, there is a can there, and it's just 2 stores away, then we would be putting another, I'm not sure the solution, so.
Yeah, we'll certainly look at the spacing of those.
Okay.
I think a good idea is maybe just direction to foster, up to 8 trash cans and to come back. They really need to look at us, but to key in on the intersections where there may not be, because I think that's a very good point. It used to always, when they did Middle Street, I thought we had 2 at the end, Raddy's and across the street. There was 2, then there was 2 at the intersection
There
there,
are.
and 2 up by the Chelsea. So, they tried to put them at the intersections there, but I'd make sure that we haven't forgotten anybody like East Front Street and Pollock. I agree, we should look at that. And maybe just then come back to us at our next meeting with a recommendation, okay, this is, but we're saying we want trash cans. I don't think anybody's saying we don't want more trash cans. I think it's the placement of them and where they need to go.
Well, my comment's going to be to you, I don't want to come back to this committee and say, well, we need to put this can here or here. That's not really the role of this committee. My recommendation is if you would like to see additional trash cans, give us a number, and then we'll let staff determine exactly where they need to go.
I would say up to 8 trash cans, as the city determined is necessary.
Yeah.
The funds should be made available, because it does benefit all the downtown.
It does,
I
okay.
would add to that, I mean, if you're going to do it, go ahead and refurbish what you got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, have a uniform that look great all across the board.
absolutely.
Okay, so along the Riverwalk, once you leave Union Point Park and you go under the bridge and you're at the convention center, all the way to the farmer's market, there's not one single trash can.
Yeah, that's what they really need.
There's none over there, so it'd be, 1 or 2 cans at the convention center, maybe 1 by the DoubleTree, and Sky Sail if we're gonna consider 7 benches, maybe a can or 2, maybe one's recycled. How about some recycled cans?
We've got this maintenance van now, and the whole key is emptying these things, because that is the issue, at Cat Cafe. Sometimes at the Pepsi store, if they don't get it right, we've had a busy Saturday,
Right.
and it's overflowing. And so that, there's nothing worse than walking our beautiful river walk and you've got trash cans that haven't been emptied and they're overflowing and they smell, especially.
Is
in
this
the
something,
Do
Foster?
you sometimes empty yours?
No, because I have nowhere, I can't,
You
that
have no place
lid,
to-
I have no way to get that
Oh,
lid
right,
up.
right, okay.
You know,
Wouldn't
that
more cans stop them from overflowing?
No.
Sure.
People, just like parking, just because the parking isn't in front of you, people don't want to walk 2 more feet, you know, so they overflow that one rather than carry it to the next one.
Foster, is this something
nature.
that this committee could ask the city to analyze?
Sure.
And the reason I'm saying that is, like, again, in my mind, which may be unique, that I would think that like trash cans would belong adjacent to benches, although I do understand that they can create smells and stuff, but that's where the trash is gonna be generated. I also was hearing and applaud the concept of maybe clean up after your dog, and that dog, the public walkway is chock full, and those usually, if you have bag dispensers, have trash things with them, but those can get filled very quickly if people are putting like bottles and cans in them. And so I'm not saying I have an answer, but I think that it might be worth looking at. Where are you gonna put the benches and, you know, where are the people walking the dogs? And can you put 1 or 2 or 3 dog bag trash receptors? And I don't use that space enough to feel qualified to answer that question, but the city could hopefully.
We sure can, and I think that adding the trash can at every bench is overkill.
Well, I wouldn't think
It's
anything.
it's definitely overkill, and I don't know that there's an actual great formula, 1 every 3 or whatnot.
Yeah.
It really depends on the flow of traffic and what type of trash we're seeing. And
Well, look, there's some people who aren't gonna look for a trash can even if it's 5 feet away from them. And there are other people who will look for it even if it's 100 yards away. As a one-time city resident, I always look to the corners. If I'm in a city, the trash can's gonna be at the corner. It's not gonna be in the middle of the block. And if I were on the public walkway, I would just look up and down. And if I can see one 2 benches away, then I can carry it that far.
Okay, so I think we've given direction to Foster to come back, and are we good, Michael, we up to 8 benches?
I think just, I
I
have
mean,
one.
excuse me, 8.
I think, yeah, up to 8, I think would be good, okay. And also, we've been places where they have little attachments on the trash cans for cigarette butts. And it's like mounted on there, they have them in Myrtle Beach. That was so cool. And it's just, somehow you're empty and easy, but I mean, if we can encourage people who smoke to put their butts in, you know, specific places versus all over the street, that would
Do
make
we
me
see
very
them
happy.
all over the street?
Oh my God, I sweep them up, I kick them, and they go to the river, you know, they end up in the gutter and then they go to the river, they're polluting the river, yeah.
But do those places serve as fire hazards? Because, do they? I'm just wondering.
Okay, I
Seriously.
hear you, okay, I'm open for solutions.
I don't know. I don't have a solution. I'm just throwing out problems.
I'm guessing,
Yeah.
I'm guessing the design of those is to prevent the trash cans from being the fire hazard.
Right.
So they have like a strictly, like a metal tube that you just drop.
Yeah, it's a little tube, so they're not real big, so I don't know how many, I don't know.
We definitely have to do some research on that.
What was it, a trash
It
can?
was a cigarette receptacle.
One of the plastic ones.
I've seen this in one of our offices, they smoke like
You smoke one?
Okay, Foster, you good with that? Are we good with that? So we can move along to the next item? Okay, what was this about downtown sidewalks?
So when I was meeting with Michael Lee, she wanted to talk something about some sidewalks. And so you'll see on one of your last things over here, a little bit of a map. And some areas that she brought up was Federal Alley from James Reed Lane to Middle Street. Currently, it's just a block concrete sidewalk going over there, and made the recommendation of doing exposed aggregate, pulling that up, being able to run underground wiring in there to where you could either wrap the trees with light similar to what we have in James Reed Lane, or to have some type of uplighting in that area. The other area was, the other part of the alley was between the Omark's building and the church, from middle to Hancock Street, basically widening that to at least 8 feet wide, doing exposed aggregate on that to just improve that appearance. And then there was a discussion on at Union Point Park, as you're coming underneath the pedestrian bridge, we do have one sidewalk that just stops. And so that, you'll actually see this on the rendering where that would basically go back up to the entrance of the park at South Front and East Front Street. So you'll see the prices on that. One of the things, and I'm not recommending this at this time because we're still studying it, but one of the things that we're looking at doing is widening the river walk, basically from the convention center down to Skysail. Currently, that area has a 5-foot sidewalk, and
It's
that
30
area.
feet though, right? Our right of way is 30 feet there?
It is. But we have to go through the camera process and things like that. But the goal would be to have a 10-foot walkway for that. It would make it more inviting, exposed aggregate. So that's going to be coming up, but we're still doing some studies on that. So, Michael, if you'd like to say anything else about that, you're welcome to.
No, I think, we also discussed James Reed Park from Middle Street, from Middle Street to James Reed Park where it stopped, and that you actually do have funds to continue that aggregate along there, and it would probably take it to James Reed Park or
Right.
somewhere close.
It would be close to it, yes.
Yeah.
the remaining
So, yeah,
funds.
finishing
Because that's the original grant from
It is.
Craven Street to James Reed.
It
So
is.
it's from
Correct.
Craven Street.
Yeah,
okay.
Craven to,
Is aggregate a cheaper solution than pavers like we have everywhere else in town?
Pavers is the hard thing to find. Now, they currently do not make this type of paver anymore, is that correct, George?
Right, we can get something similar, but that was just a time period thing. And also, when you're connecting papers, your color match is gonna be difficult, but when we get something similar, exposed aggregate for easy installation, very similar to brush flat concrete. Papers require some grade base and further excavation.
So aggregate is like gravel?
like
Yeah, you
pea
can,
gravel.
if you go on
gravel,
Hancock
yeah.
Street, we have it on Hancock Street and down Pollock Street, the block that the Palace is on. Is that where that is too? Because I
You see
remember when
around
we did.
swimming
Yeah.
pools, they do that pea gravel around pools,
But it's glued together,
Yes,
right?
you can,
Oh, it's not like
see it.
loose gravel.
No, you can see it, go on Hancock and
River.
Pollock, that way, like going to the Palace, it's that.
Each one's glued.
Yeah.
It takes a long time in the painting.
It's not glued. Basically what it is they use more of a pea gravel aggregate in there, and so they basically hose off the top layer to where you've got that exposed look on it. So.
Yeah, it looks good. Okay, one more corner, it would be at the entrance of Union Point Park on the north side, and it's just dirt. It's just, because when people are coming to concerts or going back and forth, you've got a pile of people hanging out at that light, waiting for the light to turn, and it's just uneven. It's where the bear is, there's a bear there.
Okay.
And that corner is just a dusty dirt, just a dusty bowl of dirt. So aggregate, I think, would look, something would look good there to just cover it.
So what we could look at for that is, I'll speak with Parks and Recreation staff, and they'll see if they can come up with some beautification ideas before we end up doing anything like that, but we can come back on that if it
Okay,
is deemed
all
that,
right.
yeah.
And the Federal Alley, the middle street to the corner of James Reed Lane that would connect into the other, could that be considered part of our redevelopment of the inner core too? Since
It
we're gonna be
sure
putting
could.
electric back there, we're gonna be doing everything, I would rather lump that in with the cost of that, because we wanna make sure that we've got enough electric. I wanna see lights through all of it, because we need to light up that back area, it's so
We do.
dark back there. And we really need to light up that area. So I would like to see that kind of folded into that project, if everybody's okay with that. You good with that? Okay, Foster, let's go on to inner core redevelopment.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to David. He had sent some preliminary designs a day or so ago, so we've got copies of that. We'll let David talk through that and hear what everyone has to say.
So first off, this is not my design. I think this is the committee's design. I simply took the constraints and then the goals that were developed and the recommendations that were made and then use those to try to guide how it might look. The first page here is just the existing survey overlaid on the ortho photo, where the city property lines are a heavier line weight. There is one stray line in there. I have to talk to my CAD technician. And the existing parking space number there, I just simply counted what I saw as parking spaces from this. I didn't go out and actually count them. And the reason I said plus or minus is because of that, and also there's some cars parked here where I'm not sure if those are actually spaces. So go back to the second page, and what I tried to do here was stay within the city property, and the area, the improvements that appear colored are generally where the new improvements begin. The area that is circular there with where the compactor is, or getting access to the compactor, I didn't actually use the vehicle turning radius to figure that out, but what I did was I went to the DoubleTree where that, at the end of Middle Street, there's that roundabout, and the truck actually loads the compactor from the DoubleTree in that location. So I used that same radius and just plopped it in here. The logic, you'll see there are cars parked there. The logic behind that is that the compactor will be loaded up during non-work periods, and that this parking will be empty during off hours. And I want to emphasize, this is not a detailed design. There's more work that'll have to be put into this by a consultant, working out all the nuances, such as access to the compactor for loading it. There is sort of a pathway between the two parking bays where those cars are facing each other. I don't know if that's long enough to achieve the elevation where you have to have that ramp going up to it. GFL did mention maybe a combination of lowering the compactor and a ramp might be a solution. Some other elements on here that I wanted to point out. Maintaining a similar gridded brick pattern going through there for the Bear Plaza extension, and an attempt to maintain that alleyway between the existing buildings that establish the existing Bear Plaza and just extending it back, trying to maintain that as much as possible. And as you're heading back into the Bear Plaza extension, you'll see there is a vehicular crossing there. On either side is a ramp so that those vehicles will actually go up onto the walkway. And the area where you're not seeing brick, what I was thinking is some sort of like a high profile, like stamped concrete, like a cobblestone look, so that it's bumpy for vehicles. Something that'll kind of, not only the ramp, but that bumpy surface will be a real indicator that, hey, you're crossing an area that's more suited for pedestrians rather than vehicles. But it's still, it's allowing vehicles to cross there. The other thing that it does, you'll see some planters there that have been placed throughout. Those are some opportunities where they could be blocked off, where the vehicular access could maybe be blocked off. And I was thinking bollards that run along that vehicular pathway with some sort of like a heavy nautical chain that's kind of part of our the New Bern heritage, the nautical look. But then those chains could also be reconfigured during festivals, or if you want to make it strictly pedestrian, and again, further restrict that vehicular crossing. Then coming down into the Bear Plaza extension, the circular area there within the pathway is a place for a merry-go-round. And if that is not desired, what is also included there, you'll see a lighter rectangular area. That's the same outline as the gazebo, the existing gazebo that's in the current Bear Plaza. The smaller circle closer to Craven, I was thinking that might be a suitable place for the Greg Smith artwork. As I was coming in and looking at that artwork, though, something that needs to be kept in mind is, is that creating an opportunity for it to be vandalized? Is that strong enough that it's not going to be so? And so, if that's a concern, maybe some other considerations need to be made for that. To the right, as you're heading to Craven, is a landscaped area, and you see cutouts there for benches. As far as the traffic flow, what I'm showing is vehicles coming in and out the same way on Craven, but still keeping an access behind Morgan's, but also trying to keep it within the city property. If for some reason an owner decides to block it off, then we still have a viable parking area there. And the reason for showing different materials also is that circular area would likely be a reinforced concrete type product to withstand the heavy vehicle traffic of the compactor truck. Then on the next page, you'll see just a slightly different configuration for the parking. And that one we just looked at has 24 parking spaces. The next one, a slightly different configuration, and that achieved 4 more parking spaces. But the thought there is maybe that's a mountable curb, that those parking spaces to the south go up to, but you still have that circular area for the compactor trucks. The other thing that I did on both of these sheets is in the upper right-hand corner, I took the recommendations that were presented by the 3 different ad hoc committees and listed them. And as a little homework assignment, if you all wanted to go through and see how those items are achieved by these different layouts, please feel free to do so. And Michael Lee will grade them. Any questions?
There was some discussion about a delivery zone. Do you
Oh,
anticipate?
thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, sir.
The parallel parking is what I was thinking would be the delivery zone. And that would give, so that circular area would not only give a place for the compactor truck to turn around and pick up, but box trucks would likely be able to navigate that also, and then park in the parallel parking.
So Dave, explain to me, I'm not understanding how you're having ingress and egress on one side. So if you have the cars that are on the right, on the north side, they pull in. When they pull out, they back out and go out the same way that they came in?
Yes.
And the same thing? That
Yes.
concerns me. I like the ingress and egress around a circle. I'm concerned that we have to go on somebody else's property.
Where do we go on someone else?
No, I'm just saying, if it got, is that really wide enough to back a car out? And then, you know what I'm saying, if you're in face, so you back your car out, and I guess you have to come out, but you've got somebody coming in, Is that enough space?
Yes.
How wide is that? I don't
I
know.
think I did.
For women
20
drivers.
I think I did 22 feet. 24 is the standard, 22 can still work. But, like I said, this is not a detailed design, let whoever
Mhm.
designs it.
So that would be,
guide us.
I would prefer to see the walkway moved over and have ingress, egress like we currently have it. So you're coming in and out and preserving that area like that and moving that in. That's just my feel for things.
So you're saying you could widen where you come in and out, so it's easy to get in and out at the same time?
Yeah, so, no, move the walkway over so that you can have additional parking and egress on, ingress on one side, egress on the other, so that it's constantly going in the same direction and not in two different directions.
Like the way it is now with two entrances or one entrance, one exit?
Like it's currently now,
Yeah.
too. Yeah, sorry, it's basically that same way, but widen that, and it may be that we don't have parking on either side of the center. They have the same number of 28 parking spaces, we'll put it along the edges.
So the Zaytoon Range parking lot now has one egress and ingress.
And how wide is that?
Well, if you were to take from one column, because it's parking on both sides, but
Correct.
if you have the driving width and one parking, it's equal distance to what David has drawn.
So it's 22, what you're thinking about,
There's
22,
enough room
24 feet.
to navigate, and we do it currently all the time in that parking lot.
Still think I would like to see it.
I have two thoughts. One is, I really think we should challenge GFL that they don't need to turn around in there. They pull in and back out, and so we could get rid of the circular turnaround there and just run the parking further back. Because I think that might be their wish list, but I think if you tell them, keep wishing, but this is what you have to deal with, that they'll deal with it, I think. And maybe, the city could put that question to them.
I wonder if they have some constraints with insurance, or at how far they can back up. How far, 'cause that is a long way to back up if they.
I know I've seen 18-wheel drivers do things more challenging than that. And so I would hate to do, that's very cumbersome, I think. The other comment I would make is I love the idea of a merry-go-round somewhere, but that's not the place.
I agree.
And I'm saying that because imagine, the first and foremost objective here is pedestrian throughway, right? They practically have to climb across the merry-go-round for the through traffic there.
I think that's 10 feet on either side. Also, the logic here is during Christmas when we have the Santa's house in Bear Plaza and everyone, all the kids and everything are lined up down Middle Street, that just really concerns me, the safety aspect of it. And this would kind of encourage them to go this way and give them something attractive to.
But that's the lineup now, they make them line up going backwards. They don't make them line up on Middle Street.
They're all over Middle Street.
Well, I mean, you can't have, no matter where you put the line, it doesn't matter, they're gonna go with it, but I mean, that's how we have the stanchions and everything going to the back of Bear Plaza. We stop that because of the congestion, on Middle Street.
And I want to clarify, it's not a merry-go-round, it's a berry-go-round.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that over Eagle Point.
yeah, that's where I would like to see it too.
Like to see it where?
Union Point or someplace different than.
Floods, I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
good spot. Floods.
Corner of Front and Craven in that big grass area.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, let Trump Palace, but
Build it
just
up.
Think about it, just think about it.
It's a horrible idea.
The neighbor right there.
I would just suggest that whatever plan we look at going to, that we certainly pass it through the fire department and George to make sure that we don't limit access to the rear of these buildings for a 100-foot ladder truck to get into.
I agree.
Well, A point was made at the work session that it'd be interesting to know what the city's objectives are here. Because this would be lovely, but we're giving up roughly a third of the parking spaces. So, that's a question.
That's why I feel like if we could come back to what the original layout is, but widen the sidewalk, the path to connect Craven and to connect, Middle, that pass through. That was the intent, so people would feel comfortable parking on Craven or whatever, walking through to get to Middle and vice versa. That's what I would like to see. The compactor looks great there. We're gonna have to deal with the owners of the parking spaces for the condos based on this drawing and however we're gonna work that out. Because it looks like there's something that goes into those spaces, Dave, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and the pedestrian safety aspect of it is really what was kind of driving it to go this way and have the parking consolidated to the north. Whereas if we have that in and out movement like it's currently going, that is, it's currently a conflict between the pedestrians and the vehicles. So we're not solving anything if we keep that, is my concern.
I think with the sidewalk, with this much pedestrian width, I think it will just open up Craven Street. I think Craven Street will just become a whole lot busier. People will want to go to the end. Just think it'll, because all the traffic's on Middle Street. I mean, we just all know that. But with this connection and it just, the green and just the width of all the pedestrian, by the time you get to Craven Street, now you're ready to explore that street. I think you'll walk it more.
Dave, what's the width of the sidewalk, let's just say on either side of the merry-go-round, like the 2-block width, what is that?
I think that's 10.
So they're like 5, that each block would represent about 5 feet.
Oh, no. You're talking about the...
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, that.
These little,
Yeah,
Oh,
what's the width
right.
of that?
Maybe more than 20.
Oh, yeah, so that parallel parking space, that's 7 feet wide.
No, I'm talking about the block, yeah.
Yeah, I know, so if you just use that,
Oh, I
that's
see.
probably 20, probably 20.
You're talking about what, 20 plus, 22?
Yeah.
And this is to scale, so the scale that's shown on there, it's actually, the scale is twice that, so, because it was shrunk, so 1 inch equals 40. So let's get my handy dandy scale out
That's the
here.
width of Bear Plaza right now. 30 feet, is it 30?
Here we go.
37?
20 foot scale,
Yes.
20 foot. 20 foot squares.
Yeah, so that, the brick, so that orange area that is on there, that's about just under 18 feet.
Total between the 2 blocks, or each block, I'm talking, well, I'm saying like,
18 feet.
so this plus this, so the width
Oh,
of
no.
this. I'm
Each
saying
one of
the width.
those is about 18.
So
that's
you're
about
like 36
36 or
feet wide. Goodness, that's very wide.
Yeah.
I thought 20 feet wide would be,
Here's a handy dandy scale.
yeah.
It's a grade of
Oh, okay.
bushes, it's
So
really
1 inch
shady.
equals
So it's a
40.
good place to sit and hang out.
Okay. 38 feet wide.
Can I see that scale just briefly?
So 1 inch equals 40.
And again, valuable parking that we need in downtown, that's my one concern. even though we're gonna make it kiosk parking. You know, that's what I hear everybody screaming about all the time, about not enough parking spaces.
Now, if that was the case, we wouldn't use the
Reduce.
password. Yeah.
Close enough.
We get at least to somebody all day, every day, or filled by.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why we wanna change it to kiosk, so that more people can
Right,
use
I
them.
understand, but if it really is such an issue, it would have been changed a long time ago. The parking.
It was changed a long time ago, because it was open, free parking all the time, and then the employees could come to park. It's been changed several times. But I think that would be my greatest concern, is losing, I mean, to have 38, 36, 38 feet of walkway. I think I would hear some concerns from some of the residents, office people, business people.
I would think they'd want to take their lunch and eat outside.
It's
I
just a
think-
question of the use of it, because you could put
There
parking
you
in Bear
go.
Plaza, but there's a value to having it.
Oh,
Like I
there's,
said, it's always, but it's always been there. That's what I'm
Right,
saying,
right.
Bear Plaza versus someplace that's been parking and.
okay, so like in the middle of the day, the city parking lot, which we were talking about this, Foster, not that all those spaces are full during the day, they're more full in the evening. Okay, so, and I guess that's an app that you use, I don't know exactly what that is.
It
So,
is.
but like when you go get gas and you want a car wash, you know, and then you pay for the car wash, you got a little tick, you know, you got a number. You may not get your car wash when you get your gas, you know, but the next time you're driving, oh, I'll get my car wash now, you plug in your number and you get your car wash. It could be the same way for the city parking lot. So restaurant owners could purchase vouchers that are for specific times. So you're just paying for those specific times versus a 24-hour parking space that's not used, right? So that way, they would have that voucher to put their
Or what the
employees.
easier way to do it is just, oh, well, for your customers, I wouldn't pay for my employees parking, you know, maybe.
Oh, I thought Morgan's did.
No, those parking spaces are supposedly for their guests. people
Oh,
that
I
are
thought they
eating there.
had, I thought they did them for some of their employees.
If they did that, I'm not aware of that.
Oh, okay.
When it was originally put together, the 20 spaces, it was, because it says Morgan's parking only, Morgan's guest parking
Sure.
only. I think that's what the sign
I
reads.
doubt any of the restaurants will put the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lon? Would they?
Well,
I mean, what's your thoughts?
you know, I think if the city wants to incentivize employees not parking on the streets in front of the businesses, tax, you know, payers paying to upkeep those streets, I mean, they kind of have a right to park on the street if they want. If you want to incentivize those employees parking in the parking lot, then a non-paid voucher to the business to let that employee go park in the city parking lot for free would be more beneficial than actually me buying a booklet of vouchers that may or may not be used.
What about for like valet parking? So like if you bought a book of vouchers and then you wanted to offer valet parking, and then that would create another position for someone who could get tipped, and then your parking cars over there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
The liability.
It's a,
whether
it's a liability. We've looked into valet parking before, but it's, you know, it's
Just a
one of
thought.
those, I mean, Johnny can talk about how much liability there will be in this
Well, the
downtown
valet
or something like
park,
that.
would need a place to park temporarily, and you don't have that.
And if you didn't have to guarantee for the valet parking, it would be a headache to the customer to turn them down and not know when the consistent hours that would be available.
To do valet parking, you're talking about giving them street side parking as well.
No, I'm
The
thinking
spots are
about
remote,
the,
you need multiple valets, not just one, because you have to get there and get back, and
Yeah.
I don't think New Bern's ready for that.
okay, so the Kessler Hotel in Asheville, of course, I don't know what it looks like now, but,
Just reopened.
oh, did they? Okay, because they do valet parking like in empty bank parking lots and in the, you know, where you just any place you can find a parking space, Kessler has used those spaces for their valet.
I'm
I
guessing
mean-
that they have arrangements with the banks.
Oh, I'm sure they do, but it's sort of like, you know, when you drive up, you know, to the thing and you do the teller in your car, right? They're using those spaces. It's just that they have found all those spaces.
That's a very different clientele. If someone pulls up you don't bring your suitcase for dinner, right? So.
Right. True,
that's
it's a
apples and
hotel
oranges.
versus, yeah. So,
Okay, Foster, what would you like from us?
We're making notes of everything you're
Okay.
saying, so if anyone else wants to add anything.
So this is just notes we're gonna give to Foster, I guess, at this point, and then you're gonna have your team put a design together, or what you think would work as
Yes.
far as
Yes, and I will tell you that.
water, electric, all
Right,
that kind of
and
stuff.
I will tell you, I think one of the concerns that I've got is taking up over half of the space for, well, it's not green space, but it is green space, it's passive space for this. And while it's nice, I think we will have an issue with that. We constantly look at reducing parks in the city, and so we currently have a lot of parks in our downtown as well. And so that'll just be a conversation that we have to figure to see what they're amenable to. I'm gonna absorb this, and I know when we get with staff, we're gonna talk about it, and, yeah, we'll definitely come back and have some comments.
Just keep in mind, I mean, there's no guarantee either, like back over there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but any of these other landowners could restrict access in given time.
Correct.
So HGL and KRL LLC could put up planners and just block traffic.
So I would have to say that sounds like, and we've heard that stated a lot, but if we were gonna put parking behind the property that we own, on our own property, we had to permit it, and we had to allow for emergency vehicles to have transportation or opportunity to cross that. So as I heard Bobby say, that emergency vehicles have to have access to the back. A ladder truck has to. So no one's gonna block traffic to the back. Morgan's is not gonna block traffic to the back because emergency vehicles have to be able to get there. So it's a nice thing to talk about, the what ifs, but it's not logical to think that anyone's gonna put something that will block a ladder truck.
It did happen one time. It did,
Yeah,
it did.
actually.
It did. Which they are witness that it did.
Right.
He put cinder blocks up so nobody could get
So
back
the idea is that the city is aware of the need for a circulation of traffic in the back there. And anytime anyone's going to do anything permanent to change that, you have to permit it with the city. And the city's gonna say, you need to have the 17 feet required for a ladder truck or an ambulance to get back there. So yes, it's something to think about, but the circulation of traffic needs to occur, just for safety. Is an 18-wheel truck going to be able to navigate back there? I don't know. But we have had ladder trucks back there before. As a restaurant had a report of a fire, it has to happen, and it will. So no one's going to block it. You're not allowed.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, any other MSD project proposals? Moving on to the next thing that we need to discuss.
So the other thing we got, we did have a request for the Broad Street parking for the fishing pier. We've already addressed that, and we're already working on a resolution for proposed restrooms in the area. We did have some requests for the MSD Advisory Committee to look at the social district. So I want to just tell you this, that's not the purpose of the MSD committee. If anyone is interested in seeing the social district, that's a legislative action that the governing board would take. And so the recommendation is speak with your alderman. I'm happy to speak with you about the process of that as well, if anyone is interested in that. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is the portion of our meeting where we allow public comment. And I have been notified that I do have one public comment. I'd like to call Mr. Paul Johnson forward to make his public comment. Paul, always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. And I'm going to, because of the time element,
Okay?
but I'd like to thank you all for where you are. And my little comment is history and archive. And we're going to go back 1964, New Bern High School annual. Not what we did, but the businesses in the back. And I'll get to those in a few minutes. But the big thing for 1964, when New Bern was international, was the Vietnam War started escalating. And in 1964, in the small communities, including New Bern, was the exit from the downtown to the suburbs. Our hospital moved, Montgomery Ward moved, and the mall was being built. We went through this was, everybody kind of watched and see what was going on. No planning, it just happened. Dealerships, garages, small businesses changing. Into the 70s, still, everyone realized something was going on, not only in New Bern, but everywhere else. And they came up with the Urban Renewal Program and federal UDAD grants. This is where you could go into a community, get federal money to repair, restore, do whatever. But again, no one had guidelines. The city of New Bern set up a urban renewal program, started at down Middle Street, Craven Street, the industrial area in there, started cleaning it up, started working on it. Still, we had no guiding plan. So this is a before. But remember, New Bern was growing. We had Weyerhaeuser to come in. We had Texfi. We had the new industrial park where Stanley Tool was. And then Bosch bought into Stanley. So we had industry, we had new people, we had Treasure Cove, which is Fairfield Harbor, and then we had River Bend. Again, no set guidelines where we're going. And an example of this is we had the committee of 100 got a call. They said, Paul, I want you to, this is one of my stories, I want you to take this group out. We've got this company called Standardine. They make plumbing fittings. I want you to take them boat riding. This is their third trip. Showtime. Take them out. We're going to finalize. We've got a company coming. Set it up. Meet me. Met them on the boat. Took them down the river. These three men are talking. Go by the Trent Pines. Go by, just through the, all the way to the bridge. We go through the railroad bridge. They get a chuckle with that. Get to the Holiday Inn where they were staying. And these three men left, went down on the back of the boat, and there was a conversation that I can tell you was, I was not invited. They did a whole lot of talking, a lot going on. Came back through the bridge, they came back up apologizing. I'm going to tell you what we just did. This is our third, this is this man telling me, this is our third trip to New Bern. We stayed at the Days Inn on Broad Street. We stayed at the Holiday Inn twice. We've been to downtown. And we have been back to the park. I have a letter in my pocket that's thanking New Bern for their time, their effort, everything else. And we have decided we are going to the industrial park south of Wilmington. We are not coming to New Bern, but thank you. What you just heard down below is we're going to send that letter to Wilmington, and we're moving to New Bern. That decision was just made on the stern of your boat. They did, our downtown looked like Beirut. It was businesses, boarded up, no goals. But they came to New Bern. That's before. The after, we're going to go into the late 80s, early 90s. We've got the urban renewal program. We've got the hotel. We've got Swiss Bear. And we've got the MSD project. All of these long-term have been done. Bosch comes to New Bern. These are just, they are setting up to go to our industrial park to do a washer dryer. And this is big time. There's two in the United States, one in New Bern and one on the West Coast. Again, same thing. The committee, all of the groups work together. Belly Purdue gets the highway. Everybody's got everything they want for this big business. The head shed from Germany flies into Newbern, he's the one that signs off. Sits at the meeting, he's familiar with Newbern, with the tools, he's looking at the plans for this, and he said, let's break for lunch, and I want you to take me downtown. We'll meet that. And this is, everybody goes, do whatever. He goes downtown to Newbern, lunchtime, no place to park, courts lit out, people on the street. And his answer was, the downtown is the heartbeat of a community. What you see is what it is. It was not boarded up, a lot of activity. That plant is here. That was the final decision. What we do works. And it's worked for 60 years. We've got a beautiful community. We have fourth generations. We have people wanting to be part of this community. They come here, they retire, they come here, start small businesses. We are important. But then I'll make you smile. Why do we have an MSD? When we first set up Swiss Bear, all the different groups, the city of Newbern, always on board. That was that famous question, how you gonna pay for it? You want to do streets, you want to do this, you want underground line. We set up the MSD where we had, Harold Calton put this together for us, and it's that great, life ain't fair. When you don't have money and need money, it's almost impossible to get it. When you have a lot of money and you want to borrow money, sit in my office and I'll get you a soft drink and let's talk about it. We could go to the city, we could go to these different groups that offer grants, the Electric City Group, all of these. We want to put underground wire, we want to put pavers in our street, we want to do this, and we want grant money, we want loans. How are you going to pay it back? We got this that we can start payments for now. So we made long-term commitments with money, with support of everybody in the community, and it works. That's why we have the MSD. It is a long-term. Newbern is still on the road. This Pepsi Museum is big business. It's going to draw tentacles of smaller businesses, and we can make it happen. And we have the funds to do it. So much for my history and all times.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate your insight.
Oh, but let me finish. 30 seconds, now be quiet. 1964, and this is the high school annual, and there's 56 people who buy ads. And they're all fun and all this. In the last 60 years, we've still got Lonely Supply, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Sun Journal, Armstrong Groceries, and this little star right here, R.E. Bingle sheet metal. That's it. They
Since
hung it out.
1910, we've been here a long time.
Bonner got Baxter. Benny, you salute what you've done. You've done it, okay. But we also have the tentacles of smaller, the business that are here. The cover page of this annual was Coleman Motors. We still have a lot of the family, a lot of the philanthropy, and a lot of the things that work. Johnson Machine Company, it's still here, but in a different name. A lot of condominium, and business, and it all works. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate it. Always good to have you come in anytime, but I don't think there's any other member comments. Anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Our next scheduled meeting is August 19th. We may have to have something before then if Foster needs us with any of these designs or whatever. We will be in touch.
So the things we said we all agreed on, is we make a motion to approve it?
Yeah, basically, it'll go back to him, that we've given him direction to do that.
We don't have to formally vote on anything?
No, because we're really just an advisory. So unless there's something that's really, it's going to show, I think our minutes will show that we gave direction to move forward on these things.
Is there, as a final comment, the last meeting of the year is October 21st.
Yes, sir.
That's the last scheduled one. We had talked about maybe changing that time or date so that it didn't interfere with a business day, maybe a Friday. Is that opportunity, it's in the minutes that we were discussing.
Yeah, I've had feedback from everybody, well, most people I've had feedback from that everybody does like either the midday or something that's not too early, they don't want a 7:30 or 8 o'clock meeting. So somewhere in that, but they would like a,
Tuesday is one of those days, a Friday a better day?
Friday the 24th? Would everybody consider Friday the 24th?
I won't be here the 20th, my niece is getting married, so we're leaving town that week, as a matter of fact, I'll be gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that week.
How
She's
about
getting
everybody
married
else?
in Savannah. I mean, we could look at the week before. you know, doing
17th?
something.
October
I'll be here
17th.
that week.
So this is, that what we'll do, we'll come back in August with some alternative dates and times and whatever to see what we can do, but
So we're here for a potential Friday for the last meeting scheduled. All right, we'll come up with some dates with the chamber, and we'll have
maybe
that.
is the August 19th one a problem? That's a Tuesday.
I've already changed my schedule.
Okay.
I'm already out.
We'll have some alternatives for the group to consider.
Okay. No other comments or anything? I need a motion to adjourn, please. Okay, Johnny, and second? Second. Michael Lee, okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you all. Appreciate everybody's extra time today. Thank you.